What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Cloud Slayer channel. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving weekend. Not everybody has a great time, I suppose. If you put it in a contrast, a lot of things happen in people's lives. Sometimes on happy, cheery holidays, sometimes bad things happen, right? You lose a loved one, you get your heart broke, a bunch of other things. You broke your leg or something when you were 12, and that's all you remember whenever Thanksgiving comes around, Sucks very much, maybe, so many things that could happen, right? And it sucks really, really bad, right? Sometimes when you start to you start your own family and you get older and stuff like that, and you remember those times, and you try to hold it together anyways. You do whatever you can not to put a damper onto those situations, right? You try to make good memories with those ones that you care and love for, care and love, and not try to bring them down with some negative energy because of loved one passed or something like that, right? You tried to move on to the future instead of holding on to the past, albeit something terrible that happened to you or your family at that time, right? I remember this Thanksgiving, it marked the 17th year that my grandmother passed from cancer, right? She passed away right on Thanksgiving Day. We didn't have turkey that year, but, or for that day, I should say, because we were at the hospital and, everybody crying and stuff like that. Very sad. But we knew she was getting ready to go because of how leading up to it was, right? Very sick, very, everything not going the way we thought it would go for, She was going to the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota here, leading cancer research facility, right? From the U of M and stuff like that. Very good hospital, but, there's nothing you can do about it. There's no cure for cancer, right? You can only try to treat it as much as you can. And I don't think the cancer treatment then wasn't what it is now. And even if it was now, who knows what would have happened, She didn't find out that she had it till later stages, so, it sucked. It sucked every time we got to see my grandma. She was just laying in bed and, body very swollen, and pussing stuff out of her body and stuff like that. To see a woman so strong be in that state, not good, Every time Thanksgiving happens, that's not the grandma that I remember, right? The grandma I remember was one that was always happy, always smiley, and things like that. Even in her face when she was like that, we were always, at least I would always try to hold a smile and joke with my grandma, give her hugs and kisses, right? Which is tough to do, especially if you are a kid, when you're a kid, you tell it how it is. You're still naive to the world. And, you don't know, some people don't know what death is when they're young. And, but it still could affect them going into older age, right? Sometimes people don't learn to cope with things starting at that age, right? I see a lot of people, they cry about things that affect them years and years later, right? Years and years later. I was once a person that would cry about the past years and years later, right? And, I'd be lying if I said I don't cry about things that happen years and years later, right? Not that it's funny, but it's just that it sounds funny when you say it, and it's not a laughing matter because, for you to hold on to something that happened that negatively affected you for such a long time, it has to be a big deal for you, for you to hold on to it and begrudge those things that happened, that occurred. years later, right? And it just sometimes people pour it into a bottle and drink it all away, right? And sometimes people actually learn how to move on. Sometimes drinking into that bottle, it doesn't do it, right? It makes it stay there. It makes it worse, and you don't. It doesn't help you actually move on. It doesn't help you actually take the steps that you need to do to properly move on with your life and stop holding yourself back. It might actually make you hold yourself back further and actually blame more everybody else, right? Blame your younger siblings, blame your older siblings, blame your cousins, blame your mom, your dad, blame everybody else, right? And not take accountability for anything that you could have done since then and between then and into the now. And it's always easy to point that finger, they say. But you always got to remember that there's those three fingers pointing back at you, right? Those three fingers are pointing back at you. What could you do since then? We're all humans. You should know this by now. We're not perfect. You're not perfect. They're not perfect. What can you do going forward to change that? What can you do, right? If it's nothing, so be it. But then you gotta try to figure out this monster, try to address it, try to do something other than what you're doing, blaming others and doing drugs or something. It's obviously it's not working, right? It's not working whatsoever. It's causing you to spiral even more and blame more and more people, and just sit there and think about the past. And a lot of native sayings, a lot of native teachings, they talk about the drugs and how much they hurt our people. When I say our people, I mean all people. Every people that ever took drugs that fell into that hole of emptiness and loneliness, that despair that takes hold of you and will never let you go if you let it. Albeit it's a chemical addiction, there's more at play than just you letting it. There's things that are in these drugs that make it addictive to you, and feeling bad and going into those things, it doesn't help it anymore to go away. And some people might be too far gone to even come back, and that's the truth about these drugs. And it's also sad and scary, right? And if you're able to form thoughts, you're able to even kick these things for even like a day or two, a weekend or anything like that, maybe you're right at that, you might be at that line, of turning back and getting a little bit better, at least mentally and things like that, or going forward and never able to turn back, right? So many people walk down that road, but it doesn't mean you have to all the time. But it takes a lot to find yourself, especially in addiction, right? But anyways, they would say that when people are doing these drugs, they're addicted, they're stuck in time, right? Essentially, they are. They're just thinking about those darn times that are holding them back within themselves, and they just keep replaying it and reliving it, and just feeling more and more sorry for themselves, more and more feeling bad for themselves, right? It just feeds into their despair, and it keeps going, right? Some people, they don't want to face reality, right? And that's the easy thing to do for them. I understand change sucks. It sucks when, you got people in your face telling you that, just get over it. Just get over it. I understand. And there's going to be people that, hey, man, just don't do it, Maybe it's just not that easy. There's going to be people that tell you a bunch of different things that you don't want to hear, that you don't want to face, that you don't want to accept to be true, that you don't want to accept at all, because you might be feeding into that. Those drugs are helping you feed more and more into that mindset, right? And it affects us all, right? It affects you most of all, especially if you're using these things, these substances that feed off of that negative stuff. And it's not good. It's never going to be good. And if you got good people around you and they're telling you, it's going to be best to listen. But also, if you're not hearing what they're telling you, you're not hearing anything, right? You're not hearing anything at all. And that's going to be the hardest part of those things, right? And you might be the person that's noticing that this is happening as if somebody that you care for, right? That they're going down this path, and you feel helpless because all you do is try to help them in any way that you can. Sometimes at first, it's money. Then all of a sudden you can't help them with money, because they keep burning bridges, they burn bonds, and they just keep bringing everybody down every time they come around. Money. I'm having a hard time. Life sucks. Life's this, that, and another thing, and everybody else, they're like, we know it sucks. We know it's having a hard time. We know we're having a hard time too. We're just not. It's hard to talk about, right? Especially since I walked that path too. But I've been on both sides now, and you did drugs. You're doing drugs currently. You might have never done drugs, but you still get affected by drugs because of family members, right? They'll give you those, like I said, they'll come around, those sob stories, and sometimes you stop inviting them, right? You feel bad, but, you might have, they're going to pay you back next week. They're going to pay you tomorrow because this one guy owes you $50 from 25 years ago, right? This guy, my homie's going to come by and give me that $2,000 I borrowed from you. I just need $500 more till tomorrow. I'm good for it. You know me. I'm your niece, your nephew, your sisters, your brother, your mom, your dad, your child, your grandchild, your grandparent. When drugs come to you and are affecting those that you love, it doesn't matter what they are to you. They come in the same forms. They come, especially when, they're lost in those times. They're lost because they can't move on, right? And it's terrible. It's fucking terrible, right? Everything I talk about here today was my own personal things and my thoughts and some of my own experiences, not only with myself, but with my family and all the ones that I love and care for. I'm not ousting anybody. If I'm ousting anybody, it's myself, because I hated how helpless I felt, how sad it made me, and how much I couldn't pull my own head on my ass, right? How I blamed everybody else when I could have done better. When I decided not to face the truth within myself, right? And it seems easy when you're looking back. Not necessarily easy. You're just like, how did that even happen? How did I get there? Why did I care about these things so much, these irrelevant things? How did I let that happen, And there's always that thought of, when I was younger, I remember, it would never happen to me. I'm different than everybody. Everybody thinks that until it's too late. It can happen to you. It can happen to anybody. The strongest people that you know, mentally, they'll succumb to this thing called addiction to drugs, and they'll give into it, because we all have tough times that we remember that affect us differently than it may affect you. And you take enough of these things, it'll slowly wither away at those people to feel that way, to fall into that despair. You know, you don't even have to take these drugs to fall into that despair. I've seen that too. I've seen people that stay away from drugs, but then they fall into feeling bad for themselves. You know, but you know, like I said, at those times when I did have some aunts, you know, this story's gonna take a flip here. I did have some aunts where they were like, you know, some of the cousins or something would be coming by, and you know, they'd ask, and my aunt would just be like, you know, fuck that shit, you know. She'd be like, everybody's having a fucking hard time, you know, like don't be dragging everybody into it. It turned into a big argument. Sometimes we'd have fucking fist fights, you know, at some times that we ate with family, and it would always be about that too, you know, drugs or somebody owes somebody money, somebody borrowed money, like literal fist fights, man. I mean, I remember being a kid, and you know, that stuff always happened. Not that it's funny or anything. It's not funny. It's not funny whatsoever. But you see some badass fights, right? I'm sure we all experienced some kind of family cookout fight or something. Aunts and, you know, nieces, nephews, or whatever relation. Seeing them fight. I remember my cousin, when he got old enough, our uncle was like, he still drinks a lot, you know? And he just always talking shit. Every time I seen him, I wanted to punch him a few times too, but I didn't. I'm like, whatever, dude, just get the fuck out of here, you know? You're 50. At the time, he was like 45. I was like 18 to 21. And, you know, just every time I seen him, because I was big, you know. I am bigger than him. I'm big. It was one of the bigger ones in my family. And he'd always just talk shit. Like, I could take you, blah, blah, blah. Or just beer breath in your face and just fucking sloppy drunk. And it's like early afternoon. You're like, damn, this dude can't. He only had like 3 drinks, and he's out here looking like he's ready to pass out or something. And, you know, he talked shit to my cousin. My cousin just beat his ass, you know. Beat him up, put him on the couch, and, you know. He shut it up for a little while, but he was up talking shit again, like, you know. It's what it is. Some people are like that. And my dad was always like, oh, yeah, man, he's always been like that since we were younger, though. He just talks shit, always get beat up. Never win in those fights, and just gets beat up or whatever. And it's like, oh, man, that's not cool. But he had his time where he became sober for a while and stuff like that. But, you know, sadly, it doesn't last all the time for everybody that does. You know? My Uncle Mark, I always refer to my Uncle Mark. He sobered up for many years, and at the end, you know, he got back into drugs and stuff like that. And even the last time I seen him, like I said, you could tell that the sickness was there. You could tell that the despair was there. You could tell that, you know, something wasn't right. And try to talk to him, and you could tell that, you know, he was feeding into it. And whatever had a hold of him, and might not be no coming back. And at the end, there wasn't for him. So, but anyways, like I said, all these things I talk about is things that happened to me, happened to my family, and things that I've experienced in my life. And, you know, I wouldn't change them for the world. Maybe some of the actions that I did, I might have changed some of those, you know. Spoke up when I should have, you know, stuff like that. But you can't change the past, right? You can only move forward. I could say I could change a million things, but I might not be where I am now, you know? So I can only be thankful for the things I do have and not the things that I could have had or what could have happened, what should have, could have, would have. You know, it didn't. What you got, what you see is what you get. And you just got to count the blessings that you do have and not the ones that you could have had, right? And, you know, if you're trying to get away from these things, and you can safely and correctly, like alcohol, where you don't die, where you just go cold turkey, you know, you go to a place that helps wean you off or something, you know, and then you find a support system that helps you, whether it be Christianity, whether it be, you know, whatever religious belief that you choose in, or maybe it's not even a religious belief. Maybe you fall in love with lifting weights, Maybe you fall in love playing basketball or soccer or, something that keeps you away from thinking about the drugs or alcohol or any of that stuff, right? It keeps you away from that addiction that you were facing. That's going to be the hardest part. So, but anyways, I hope everybody has a good one. I hope that you don't fall into those BS. Stay away from that negativity, and do your best to stay positive, and help encourage those around you to stay positive as well, even if they can't see it. Maybe one day it'll help them too when they look back on their lives, right? I hope everybody stays safe, stays warm, and just continues to do the best that they can, and cherish the things that they do have. And I hope you guys have a great one. Until next week, this is the Cloud Slayer Ramble, Monday Rambles. Until next time, guys, peace.